Over the Christmas holiday, while people were, of course, spending time with loved ones and making merry, the former president of the United States, however, decided to pull out his Festivus poll and aired some grievances. On his Truth Social
Truth Central
platform, Trump began going after, of course, the January 6th committee reports. Here's what he said. The Unselect Committee's January 6th report is a hoax. No different than Russia, and all the other scams, scam capitalized, the S in scam, that the disinformation-laden Democrats have been planting for years. If I weren't leading by a lot in the polls, funny enough, to interrupt that thought for a second, what polls are you leading in? There's actually polls that show Ron DeSantis leading over Trump in the Republican primary. Okay, great. But he continues. He said, if I weren't leading by a lot in the polls against both parties. What polls? This continuation of falsehoods and lies would end quickly. And of course, as soon as after he says the falsehoods and lies would end, he then obviously puts out his same old falsehoods and lies, saying, I won in 2016, did much better in 2020, rigged. And the radical Marxists don't want to run against me or MAGA in 2024. Are you kidding me? No, that would be the Democrats' dream to run against Donald Trump again. Considering how they won last time, yeah, they want to run against Trump. I don't know if he's noticed, but the entire Democratic Party's political messaging right now is, boy, look at that Trump guy. Oh, you don't want to vote for him. Okay. But hey, Trump delusional 100%. He also said this, funny enough. I had almost nothing to do with January 6th. And then adds, free speech. Well, hold on. I had almost nothing to do with January 6th. Almost nothing? What are you talking about? What is this? I don't know why he put that. I'm not sure. But look, the projection is comical, obviously. But I most enjoy how he punctuated that rant with free speech. Free speech. Donald Trump does not know what free speech is. And he also doesn't know that free speech limits the incitement of a riot. Let me give you a court case that is that may be, consequential, because it does show that there is a limit to free speech when it comes to inciting a crowd. In fact, Finer v. New York noted that the First Amendment actually permits the government to take action against speech when there is a clear and present danger that it will cause a disturbance of the peace. Now, you all have seen the videos, I'm assuming, of January 6th, the rioters going into the Capitol, storming the Capitol, fighting police officers, beating them up in some cases, of course, getting into there, smashing windows, leaving feces all over the hallways. Yeah, that seems to be a disturbance of the peace. So the police can, of course, intervene in that speech. Now, of course, when it came to Donald Trump, who was safely tweeting from a bunker, okay, they couldn't exactly go and arrest him. And by the way, at the time, nobody had thought of it. Still, his tweets seem to have been a good example of inciting this riot, this crowd. Okay. Now, additional court reviews on that case, by the way, found that it's not a violation of free speech to arrest and charge a person who is inciting a crowd to do violence. Now, of course, what actually is considered to be incitement, there is a fine line on this one. That said, another point in this court review is they found that the petitioner of this particular case, this was, I believe, a 1960s, 1970s case, that the petitioner was neither arrested nor convicted for the making or the content of his speech, but for the reaction that it actually engendered. Actually, yeah, it was 1960s, it was a civil rights era. Now, they also said that the police cannot be used as an instrument for the suppression of unpopular views, which is funny how it refers to civil rights as an unpopular view, but it's not. But okay, whatever, I digress. But when the speaker passes the bounds of argument or persuasion and undertakes incitement to riot, the police are not powerless to prevent a breach of that peace. Again, it's very ironic that this was a case that was pursued against a black man. He was arrested, and they found that, okay, he did incite a riot. Now, Donald Trump, as president of the United States at the time, had also incited a riot, but he was not arrested. And now he's claiming free speech. These cases are pretty similar, I would say. But there is that power imbalance. Donald Trump, of course, former president of the United States, and a white man versus a black man. But anyway, okay. Now, Trump, you might be wondering or might be asking, how did Donald Trump incite the rioters on January 6th? Well, the committee specifically honed in on a tweet sent at 1:42 local time on December 18th. So this is one of many different tweets. And again, it fits a pattern of Donald Trump basically saying things that would be considered to be incitement and gearing up this his supporters to do violence on January 6th. Here's the tweet in question. He said, statistically impossible to have lost the 2020 election. Big protest in D.C. on January 6th. Be there. Will be wild. And of course, that also dovetails with Steve Bannon's, what is it? There will be hell to pay, I believe. I for some reason, I'm thinking that I didn't get that quote exact from Bannon, but it was along those lines. Now, an anonymous Twitter employee also later on testified to the committee that they had seen a rise in violent rhetoric following that tweet, in which some of the responses turned openly homicidal. So getting back to that case, Finer, there seems to have been, I don't know, a reaction from Trump's followers that did eventually lead to violence on January 6th. So you could definitely make the case that that tweet specifically, as well as many others leading up to it, were incitement, and incitement is not free speech. Interesting, again, how he capped off that whole rant with free speech. It's almost as if he's expecting this. But there's more. Of course there's more. He's going to continue to truth, because that's what he does. Merry Christmas to everyone, including the radical left Marxists that are trying to destroy our country. The Federal Bureau of Investigation that is illegally coercing and paying social and lamestream media to push for a mentally disabled Democrat over the brilliant, clairvoyant, and USA-loving Donald J. Trump. And of course, the Department of Injustice, which appointed a special, for some reasons this is in quotes, prosecutor who, together with his wife and family, hates, in all caps, Trump. Weirdly, again, there was apostrophes. More than any other person on earth. Love to all. I mean, that is unhinged. Complete and total, just like insanity. It's diarrhea of the mouth. That's what's going on here. It's just, I got all these grievances. I got problems with you all, and you're going to hear about it. I mean, if you're on
Truth Central.
Only if you're on Truth Central. Look, he's lost his mind. Absolutely lost his mind. I mean, nobody else talks like this. Imagine if I started the show and I was like, you're watching Waldorf Nation with the brilliant, clairvoyant, and most progressive of all, Jeff C. Waldorf. No, you would be like, well, who is this nut guy? Or this nut bag? This nutcase. This guy isn't. I'm not watching this. This is weird. Nobody talks like that except for this guy, Donald Trump. And of course, the strangest thing of all is that you get, right wingers tune into this guy and they're like, that's it. That's the guy. That's the guy. Although, not anymore, I suppose. He seems to be losing a lot of support because, well, I mean, at the end of the day, he's a loser. Lost Republicans, the chance at a red wave in the midterms, as well as losing the election. And a lot of the reason that he lost the election in 2020 against Joe Biden is because when he was president, he was an absolute disaster. Just let COVID run wild. But yes, no, he's clairvoyant. You know what? Maybe that explains how he was able to declassify the documents that he stole from the government to take to Mar-a-Lago. I'm so clairvoyant that I was able to use my mind, you see, because I have, mind powers, as well as, what is it, psychokinesis, whatever. I can see ahead of time, clairvoyant, and I can declassify documents with my mind without having to tell anybody, because they'll just know. Mind powers. Mind powers. No, he's got no mind powers. He's barely got a mind. This guy. Wow. Now, one more thing. The idea, and I found this funny, the idea that the special prosecutor hates Donald Trump. Like it's personal? It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. Look, Jack Smith's doing his job. Of course, if you do your job and that job happens to be investigating whether or not you had done a crime, well, then I guess for Donald Trump, that's personal. But for Jack Smith, he's like, no, this is another job. Like, I've taken down, past presidents before, not in the United States, of course, but in other countries. For example, I think it was Yugoslavia that he had went after. But anyway, went after those officials, did his job. Well, apparently those people tend to take that a little bit personally, and I guess that's the whole deal with Donald Trump right now. Taking it very, very personally, very personally. But Smith, again, has said nothing publicly throughout the entire process so far. Nothing publicly to show that he hates Donald Trump, like has some sort of weird personal vendetta against him. No, it really seems like Donald Trump's got is the one that's got the vendetta. Is making this very, very personally, going after his wife, members of his family, and himself so far for just, again, doing his job, which, by the way, we don't know what Jack Smith has found. If he's found anything, he could come back and say, look, I'm sorry, I didn't find the evidence we're looking for, and I guess I'm not going to refer Trump for prosecution. That could happen. I think it's very unlikely, but it could happen. And then, what's Donald Trump going to say afterwards? Nothing. But the fact that Donald Trump is on the attack shows that he's feeling the pressure, feeling pretty rattled.